Deep in the cold darkness of space, a large alien monitoring station watched the stars. Inside its crystal walls, Senior Surveyor Zethkar stared at his computer screen with wide eyes. The tall alien with 4 arms could hardly believe what he was seeing. "Commander Valana," he called out to his boss. His voice came through a machine that changed his alien language into normal words. "You need to look at this right now." Commander Valana floated over to him. She looked like a ghost made of light, moving without touching the ground. Her body glowed with colors that showed she was curious. "What did you find, Zethkar? Another dead planet?" "Not dead, Commander. Very much alive." Zethkar pressed buttons on his control panel. A big 3D picture appeared in the air, showing a section of outer space. "We found a fleet of ships, about 200 vessels of different sizes. They are moving together in formation near the edge of our galaxy." Velana's glowing body flickered brighter. "New arrivals? What kind of aliens are they?" "This is the interesting part," Zethkar said, getting more excited. "Our scans show these ships are very old, really old. They have basic fusion engines, simple metal hulls, and no advanced shields at all. But there are living beings on many of the ships." The commander's light pulsed with what looked like laughter. "Primitive aliens? In deep space? Maybe they got lost and accidentally ended up here? The technology looks like what the old records say humans used to build," Zethkar explained, showing comparison charts on his screen. "But that cannot be right. The human home planet was destroyed in wars thousands of years ago. These must be some other species that builds things the same way humans did." Valana studied the data with growing interest. The ships looked patched, up and repaired many times. They had extra parts welded on like someone had been fixing them for a very long time. "Amazing. Whoever they are, they have kept a whole fleet working in deep space using technology that should have broken down long ago. Should I try to talk to them?" Zethkar asked, though he already knew what she would say. "Yes, but stay far away. If they use such old technology, they might be dangerous or act crazy. Keep our defense weapons ready, just in case." Velana's body got brighter with excitement. This could be the biggest discovery in 100 years. A living example of how primitive space travelers lived. A few hours later, the monitoring station managed to contact the mystery fleet. The answer came back in an old Earth language that their computers could translate, though the accent was strange and different from anything they had heard before. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the human ship New Horizon. I speak for the United Earth Colonial Fleet. We got your message and thank you for being peaceful. We are ready to meet with your people using normal diplomatic rules." The translation made everyone on the station very excited. Humans, real humans, not just aliens, who looked similar. Somehow, impossibly, a group of humans had survived when their home planet was destroyed. They had kept their fleet alive in deep space for thousands of years. "Unbelievable," whispered Zethkar. Living humans, using technology from when they first started traveling in space. They must be the most isolated and primitive space traveling people in the whole galaxy. Velana started preparing for the diplomatic meeting. "Tell the council about this. They will want to see this with their own eyes. A species using such ancient, crude technology. It will be very funny to see how they have managed to survive so long with such simple tools." But neither the alien council members nor the human delegation understood what was about to happen when they met. The alien scientists were already laughing about the primitive humans and their ancient ships. They thought it would be entertaining to meet these backward people who still used old fusion engines and metal hulls. They expected to find confused, desperate survivors clinging to outdated technology. The humans, on the other hand, had been traveling the stars for over 300 years. They had faced pirates, system failures, hostile aliens, and the endless challenges of deep space. Every day had been a test of their skills, their courage, and their determination to survive. Their ships might look old and patched up, but every repair had been done by expert hands. Every system had been tested in the harshest conditions space could offer. Every piece of equipment had been built to last, to work when everything else failed, and to keep working no matter what happened. The aliens saw primitive technology and laughed. They did not understand that they were looking at 3 centuries of human engineering, refined by necessity and perfected by survival. These were not the ships of a dying civilization clinging to the past. These were the vessels of a people who had turned their greatest challenge into their greatest strength. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the New Horizon, looking out at the alien monitoring station through the thick glass of his ship's window. He was a man in his 50s with gray hair and calm blue eyes that had seen many dangers. Behind him, his crew worked at their stations with quiet efficiency. "Commander Brooks," he said to his second-in-command, a tough woman with short brown hair. "Are we ready for the meeting?" "Yes, sir," she replied. "The diplomatic team is prepared. Chief Sanders has all systems running smoothly, and Dr. Watson has the medical bay ready for any emergencies." Morrison nodded. He had been expecting this day for a long time. Humans had been alone in space for centuries, but they had always known they would eventually meet other intelligent species. The question was whether those species would be friends or enemies. "Remember," he told his crew, "we represent all of humanity. Let them judge us by our actions, not by what they think they know about our technology." The stage was set for first contact. The aliens expected to meet primitive survivors using ancient technology. The humans prepared to meet advanced beings, who might see them as inferior. Neither side understood that they were about to discover something entirely different than what they expected. The meeting took place on Haven's Rest, a huge space station where different alien species met to talk. Captain Jake Morrison walked through the metal doorway with his team behind him. Commander Lisa Brooks, a tough woman with short brown hair, stayed close to his right side. Chief Engineer Pete Sanders, a stocky man with strong hands, carried a small bag of tools. Dr. Amy Watson, the ship's doctor, held a medical scanner in her hand. The humans looked exactly like the old computer records said they would. They walked, on two legs, had different skin colors, and lived much shorter lives than most aliens. Their clothes were simple and practical, made for working rather than looking fancy. To the 12 alien representatives sitting around the big table, the humans looked almost funny in their plainness. "Welcome, humans," said Commander Villana, her glowing ghost-like body pulsing with colors that showed she was trying not to laugh. "We are honored to meet what might be the last members of your species." Captain Morrison, a man in his 50s with gray hair and calm blue eyes, nodded politely. "Thank you for agreeing to meet with us. We have been traveling for a very long time, and peaceful contact with other species is always good news." The aliens around the table could barely stop themselves from laughing out loud. The way the human talked was so formal and old-fashioned, like something from an ancient history book. "Traveling?" asked Ambassador Crixtal, a tall bug-like alien whose many eyes sparkled with mockery. "You mean floating helplessly, right? Our scans of your ships show technology so old it belongs in a museum. Fusion engines, metal walls. Do you even know how to control gravity?" Commander Brooks stepped forward a little, keeping her face calm even though the alien was clearly making fun of them. "We use what works, Ambassador. Our ships have kept us safe for over 300 years. This answer made all the aliens want to laugh even more. 300 years of travel with such old technology seemed impossible to species that could fly across the galaxy in just a few weeks. 300 years? Laughed Harglin, a jelly-like creature whose body wiggled with amusement. Our great-great-grandparents had better technology when they first left their home planet. How do you even keep the air breathable with such basic systems? Chief Engineer Sanders, a man with rough hands from years of fixing things, smiled a little. We build extra systems for everything. When you cannot easily replace broken parts, you make things that last a long time and have backup systems for your backup systems. How interesting, said Dr. Yilmara, a spider-like alien whose scientific curiosity was stronger than her amusement. A perfect example of a species that stopped advancing. Tell me, do you still use bullets and explosives to fight? Dr. Watson, a smart-looking woman in her 40s, looked at her captain before answering. We use whatever works best for our situation, Doctor. The alien scientists wrote down lots of notes, treating the humans like interesting animals in a zoo rather than equals. They asked many detailed questions about their primitive technology, their wasteful ways of managing resources, and their laughably simple social systems. You poor creatures, Villana said, trying to sound kind. Trapped, in those metal boxes for centuries, watching your technology slowly break down, with no hope of progress or real civilization. How do you keep your people from giving up? Captain Morrison's jaw muscles tightened just a little, but his voice stayed steady. We focus on our mission, Commander. Humans have always been good at dealing with difficult situations. Oh yes, the famous human ability to adapt, chuckled Ambassador Zorthek, a crystal-like being whose many-sided body made tinkling sounds when he laughed. The old stories talk about your species' amazing stubbornness when facing impossible challenges. Though I suppose being stubborn is necessary when you are using technology that is 1,000 years old. The meeting went on for several hours. The aliens kept treating the humans like amusing curiosities rather than potential equals. They offered small gifts of help, old food-making machines, basic medical supplies, maybe even a ride to a civilized world where the humans could be properly studied and taken care of like a protected species. Through it all, the human team stayed polite, patient, and professional. They answered questions without getting defensive, accepted the condescending treatment without getting angry, and kept their dignity even though they were being treated like primitive children. But Captain Morrison was watching everything carefully. He noticed how the aliens assumed that old technology meant weak technology. He saw how they thought that different meant inferior. He observed how they believed that their advanced tools made them automatically better than anyone else. Commander. Brooks also stayed alert. She had spent decades fighting pirates and hostile aliens in deep space. She knew that underestimating an enemy was often the last mistake someone made. These aliens were making that same mistake with humans. Chief Sanders kept his tools bag close. Inside were instruments that looked simple, but had been perfected over 3 centuries of space travel. Every piece had been tested in the harshest conditions the universe could offer. Every design had been improved by generations of human engineers who had to make things work or die. Dr. Watson watched the alien scientists with professional interest. They were so focused on their advanced technology that they missed the obvious signs of human adaptation and survival skills. They saw primitive equipment and assumed primitive minds, not understanding that surviving in deep space for 300 years required intelligence, creativity, and determination that few species possessed. The alien representatives continued, making jokes about human technology. They laughed about the ancient fusion drives, the crude metal hulls, and the primitive life support systems. They offered to help the poor, backward humans join civilized galactic society. We have medical technology that could extend your short lifespans, offered Dr. Yilmara. Educational systems that could bring your knowledge up to modern standards. Cultural programs that could help you adapt to civilized society. That is very generous, Captain Morrison replied diplomatically. We would be happy to learn about your ways, just as we hope you might be interested in learning about ours. This comment made several aliens laugh out loud. What could primitive humans possibly teach advanced galactic civilization? As the formal meeting ended, Captain Morrison stood up and straightened his simple uniform. We appreciate your hospitality and your offers of help. Perhaps we could continue these discussions tomorrow. It has been a long day, and we should return to our ships. Of course, Velana agreed generously. Rest well in your primitive vessels. Tomorrow we can discuss better arrangements for your people. As the humans left, the alien representatives barely waited for the metal door to close before breaking into open laughter. Did you see their clothes? Gasped Krixtal. Real fabric, sewn together by hand. And their ship designs, added Harglin, still shaking with laughter. Flying junk piles held together with hope and human stubbornness. I almost felt sorry. For them, said Zorthek. Imagine being stuck with such limited technology for so long. But their laughter was about to stop very quickly. The second day of meetings had just started when loud alarm sounds filled the conference room. Red lights flashed everywhere as Commander Velana's glowing body immediately changed to bright orange colors that meant danger. Marauder attack, shouted the station's defense officer through the communication system. 3 Kroger assault ships with heavy weapons approaching fast from outer space. All the alien diplomats immediately started running to safety. Their advanced technology allowed them to move quickly during emergencies. The Kroger were famous raiders known throughout the galaxy for being brutal, efficient killers who used stolen weapons from many different species. Our defense weapons will hold them back for maybe 10 minutes, Velana announced, her body flickering with stress patterns. All diplomatic people should evacuate to the safe inner rooms immediately. But Captain Morrison stayed sitting calmly, speaking quietly into a small radio device. Brooks, what does our tactical situation look like? 3 Kroger heavy raiders, sir, came the reply through the simple radio. Standard attack formation. Looks like they want to hit the station fast and steal whatever they can. Pete, how are our engineering systems doing? Chief Sanders' voice crackled through the old-fashioned communicator. All systems working perfectly, Captain. The entire fleet is ready if you need us. The alien representatives stared in amazement as the humans discussed the deadly situation like they were talking about the weather. These primitive people seemed completely unconcerned about the approaching threat. Captain Morrison, Velana said urgently, you must evacuate your people. Right now. Your ancient ships cannot possibly survive against Kroger military weapons. Morrison looked up from his radio with a small smile. Commander, with respect, you might want to watch our tactical display before you make that judgment. The main viewing screen changed to show the human fleet, which had moved from its previous position to form a protective circle around the alien station. The alien diplomats watched with a mixture of pity and horror. Surely these backward humans were not planning to fight military warships with their ancient technology. Brooks, you have command of the battle, Morrison said calmly. Use standard defensive formation. Rules of engagement are free fire once they start shooting. Understood, sir. All ships report ready for combat. The Kroger raiders came in fast and confident, their sleek warships covered with energy weapons and quantum shields. They had obviously detected the human ships and dismissed them as no threat at all. Ancient vessels that could be destroyed with minimal effort. The first Kroger ship fired energy beams at what appeared to be the largest human vessel, a massive, ugly construction that looked more like a flying factory than a warship. The energy, beams that should have vaporized the primitive target instead, hit what seemed to be empty space several kilometers away from their intended victim. What in the galaxy? Began Ambassador Krixtal, but his words were cut off as the human ship fired back. The response was nothing like what the aliens expected. Instead of energy weapons or smart missiles, the human ship launched what appeared to be simple metal projectiles, crude missiles that any civilized species would have stopped using thousands of years ago. The Kroger raiders' automatic defense systems barely registered the primitive weapons as dangerous. Their point defense systems were designed to stop energy weapons and computer-guided missiles, not simple ballistic projectiles moving at incredible speeds. The first missile hit the lead Kroger ship and simply ended it. The entire vessel, shields, and all disappeared in a brilliant flash of converted matter and energy. Impossible, whispered Dr. Yilmara. What kind of primitive weapon could do that? Her question was answered as the humans' second wave of missiles arrived. Each primitive missile carried a carefully designed charge of antimatter, guided by simple but extremely effective targeting systems and protected by thick metal casings that advanced point defense systems could not effectively stop. The second Kroger ship tried to run away, its commander finally realizing that these ancient humans represented a threat far beyond their appearance. But human battle tactics had been developed through centuries of fighting in deep space with limited resources. Every shot was calculated, every battle plan designed for maximum efficiency with minimum waste. Commander Brooks' voice came through the radio, calm and professional as always. Target 3 is trying to escape. Morrison's Pride and New Haven cut off their escape route. Liberty Bell, prepare for pursuit pattern. The alien diplomats watched in stunned silence as the human fleet moved with precision that contradicted their primitive appearance. Ships that had seemed clumsy and awkward revealed themselves as purpose-built instruments of war, each vessel perfectly designed for its role in the tactical formation. The human ships moved like they had practiced this exact battle 1,000 times. Each vessel knew exactly where to go and what to do. There was no confusion, no hesitation, no wasted movement. It was like watching a deadly dance performed by expert dancers. The third Kroger ship never even managed to leave the star system, before it too was reduced to expanding plasma by another perfectly placed antimatter warhead. The entire battle lasted less than 4 minutes from start to finish. "Brooks to Morrison," came the voice through the radio. "All enemy targets destroyed. No damage to our fleet or the station. Standing down from combat alert and returning to standard formation." Captain Morrison calmly turned off his radio and looked around the completely silent conference room. Every alien representative was staring at him with their mouths open, their previous assumptions about human capabilities completely shattered. "Now then," Morrison said politely, "shall we continue our discussions about primitive human technology, Doctor?" Yilmara was the first to find her voice. "Those weapons, antimatter warheads guided by ballistic targeting systems. The engineering precision required to make such simple components work at that level of devastating effectiveness is considerable," agreed Chief Sanders, speaking calmly. "When you cannot rely on quantum computers and energy shielding, you have to get very creative with basic physics and advanced materials science. Our missiles use simple Newtonian guidance principles, but they are built with metallurgy that would probably surprise your best engineers and shaped charges that took us 2 centuries to perfect." Commander Brooks stood up and walked to the viewing screen. "Every system on our ships has been tested in real combat situations. We have fought pirates, hostile aliens, and dangerous space phenomena that your computer databases probably do not even have names for. When your survival depends on your equipment working perfectly every single time, you learn to build things that never fail." Ambassador Krickstall leaned forward, his compound eyes no longer sparkling with mockery. "Your defensive systems stopped Kroger military-grade energy weapons using what we thought was primitive technology." Dr. Watson smiled for the first time since the meetings began. "Overlapping magnetic field generators creating interference patterns. Not elegant or advanced, but extremely effective. When you are traveling between stars for centuries, you learn to make simple systems perform complex tasks." The aliens were beginning to understand that they had completely misunderstood what they were dealing with. These were not primitives using ancient technology. They were master engineers who had spent 3 centuries refining and perfecting systems that had to work perfectly every time, with no possibility of replacement or repair from outside sources. "How many other species have made the mistake of attacking your ships?" asked Valana quietly. Morrison and Brooks exchanged a look before Brooks answered. "Let us just say that pirates and hostile species learn very quickly that attacking human vessels is extremely poor risk assessment." The silence in the conference room stretched for several long minutes before Commander Valana finally found her voice. Her glowing energy form had changed to colors the humans did not recognize. It was a mixture of respect, confusion, and what might have been fear. "Captain Morrison," she said very carefully, "perhaps we have made serious mistakes in judging human capabilities." Morrison sat back in his chair with the same calm attitude he had shown throughout the entire crisis. "Commander, you judged our technology by how it looked rather than how well it worked. That is a common mistake when dealing with humans." Ambassador Krickstall leaned forward, his many eyes now focused completely on the human captain. "Those weapons, antimatter warheads guided by simple targeting systems, the engineering skill required to make such basic components work at that level of deadly efficiency is very impressive," agreed Chief Sanders, speaking up with confidence for the first time since the battle. "When you cannot rely on quantum computers and energy shields, you have to get creative with basic physics and advanced material science. Our missiles use simple guidance systems based on Newton's laws, but they are built with metalworking techniques that would probably amaze your best engineers and explosive charges that took us 2 centuries to perfect." Dr. Yilmara's scientific curiosity overcame her shock completely. "But your ship's defensive system stopped Kroger military-grade energy weapons with what appeared to be primitive technology." Dr. Watson smiled widely for the first time since the meetings began. "Multiple magnetic field generators creating overlapping interference patterns. Not elegant or beautiful, but extremely effective. When you are traveling between stars for centuries, you learn to make simple systems perform very complex jobs." Though aliens were beginning to understand that they had completely misunderstood what they were dealing with. These were not primitive people using ancient technology. They were master engineers who had spent 3 centuries refining and perfecting systems that had to work perfectly, every single time, with no possibility of getting replacement parts or repair help from outside sources. "How long have you really been traveling?" asked Valana, her earlier condescending attitude completely gone. Captain Morrison looked thoughtful for a moment. "Our fleet launched from Earth in the year 2157 according to our old calendar system. That was exactly 347 years ago. We have been looking for a new home world ever since then." 347 years, repeated Harglin, his jelly-like body rippling with something other than amusement now. "In ships you built yourselves. With technology you have maintained and improved over centuries of deep space travel without any outside help." "That is correct," Morrison confirmed. "When Earth became impossible to live on, we had a choice: give up and die, or adapt and survive. Humans chose to adapt and keep going." Commander Brooks stood up and walked to the viewing screen, which still showed the human fleet in its defensive formation around the station. Every single ship out there was built by human hands using human knowledge. Every system has been maintained, upgraded, and completely rebuilt dozens of times over the centuries. We have had children born in the deep space between stars who became engineers and improved on their parents' work. We have faced space pirates, system failures, resource shortages, and stellar phenomena that your computer databases probably do not even have names for. And you survived it all," said Ambassador Zorthek quietly, his crystal-like body no longer making tinkling sounds of laughter. "We did much more than just survive," Lisa Brooks replied with pride. "We got better. Every challenge made us stronger, more adaptable, more resourceful, and more capable. You see primitive technology when you look at our ships. We see systems that have been tested by 3 centuries of deep space operations and proven themselves absolutely reliable under the worst possible conditions." Pete Sanders pulled out a small device that looked like a simple metal tool with multiple ends. "This is a standard human multi-wrench. It can perform 47 different mechanical operations, will function perfectly in any environment from hard vacuum to corrosive atmosphere, requires no power source whatsoever, and can be manufactured in any machine shop using basic materials. How many of your advanced tools can make those same claims?" The aliens examined the simple tool with completely new understanding, beginning to see the philosophy behind human engineering. Everything was built to last forever, to be repaired easily, to be improved constantly, and to work when more sophisticated alternatives would fail completely. "Your ships," began Dr. Yilmara with growing realization. "They are not just transportation vessels, are they? They are entire civilizations that can take care of themselves completely. Each ship carries between 500 and 10,000 people," Morrison confirmed. "We have complete manufacturing capabilities, research facilities, schools, hospitals, entertainment complexes, and agricultural systems that can grow food. We are not just a fleet of ships. We are a mobile civilization that happens to be extremely good at protecting itself from any threat." The implications began to sink in deeply for all the alien representatives. This was not a group of refugees, using ancient technology that they barely understood. This was an entire species that had spent centuries perfecting the art of deep space survival and had emerged as something entirely new and unprecedented in galactic history. "Captain Morrison," Villana said formally, "I believe the Galactic Council owes humanity a sincere and complete apology. We judged you by standards that did not account for your unique circumstances and truly remarkable achievements." Morrison waved his hand dismissively. "No apology is necessary, Commander. We are used to being underestimated by others. It has actually been a significant advantage for us over the years." "I can easily imagine that," said Krixtal with a dry tone. "How many other species have made the serious mistake of dismissing your capabilities the way we did?" Commander Brooks and Dr. Watson exchanged meaningful glances with their captain, before Brooks answered carefully. "Let us just say that space pirates and hostile species tend to learn very quickly that attacking human ships is extremely poor risk assessment and usually fatal." The meeting that followed was completely different from the previous day's session. Instead of condescension and barely hidden laughter, the aliens asked respectful, detailed questions about human engineering techniques, survival strategies, and social adaptation methods. They began to understand that they were not dealing with backward primitives, but with a species that had faced complete extinction and responded by becoming something unprecedented in galactic history. They had become a completely mobile, self-sufficient civilization that had turned the ultimate challenge of deep space survival into their greatest strength. As the session concluded, Commander Velana made a formal request with great respect. "Captain Morrison, the Galactic Council would be deeply honored if humanity would consider joining our alliance as full equals. Your unique perspectives and proven capabilities would be invaluable to all of us." Morrison smiled genuinely, the first completely real expression the aliens had seen from him. "We would be very happy to discuss that possibility, Commander. But I should warn you in advance that we have our own way of doing things." "After what we have witnessed today," replied Velana with complete sincerity, "I believe that is exactly what the galaxy needs most." The laughter had stopped completely, replaced by something far more valuable and lasting. Genuine respect for a species that had turned their greatest challenge into their greatest achievement, and had done it with determination, ingenuity, and an unbreakable refusal to give up. In the depths of space, the human fleet continued its patient journey among the stars, no longer alone in the galaxy, but finally recognized for what they truly were. Survivors who had become something magnificent,